Hello, hello. This is Carissa, your intuitive coach, and wanted to talk about creating your reality. Oop, this is moving on us. It's moving on us a lot. We'll see what happens here. So, I always feel like you do that through 3 different ways. So, it's through your intention, attention, and the removal of all the blocks that kind of stand in between. And so all these folks that you hear, everybody's talking about like your vision and your calling in and your happy end result and your slide, and that's great, but like I don't think we spend a lot of time there, like really thinking about those details. Like nobody's teaching us how to think through those details. And like as I start to think about them, like I can tell I'm getting like blocked, like of like spending the time really thinking about what I want to call in, like what I desire, like getting detailed on the beingness that needs to show up to create this. But I have to spend more time on like what this is. So that's what I was hoping to do. So this video is almost like accountability for me to really go down that rabbit hole. So since I have this mental block, I figured I'd start with what I consider to be like the easier ones to work with. For me is the finances. So my intention regarding my finances. And so I'm so hesitant to put a number on this. Like I made amazing money this year in my sales career, but calling in a future including getting paid for being me. And right now it's just not in that congruent place. So looking in for, getting paid for being me, I'm big on like, okay, I want all my needs. I shouldn't say I want, let's rephrase. I'm looking to call in all my wants and needs being satisfied, and additional money being placed towards passion projects or allowing the freedom to do the passion projects. So, like for me, that was like buying rental property so I could have residual income so I could then have my passion projects, and just, bombing around, having fun and adventure. So, kind of putting the extra money there too, but like getting paid for being me, like there's such a block there of like, why couldn't I get paid what I got paid in my sales job for being me? Like, why can't I just change where that source is coming from? So, playing around with a number. So like a number that feels like heavy is, but like let's call it in, is getting paid netting $20,000 a month, getting paid for being me, right? And that feels heavy, like who are you to get paid for being you that much money? Kind of like, what makes you so special? Like, what are your gifts and talents that you deserve to get paid that much money for being you? Well, if I don't deserve it, that means I think other people don't deserve to get paid for being them, and they don't deserve to get paid big money for them. So that's kind of just cutting myself off and cutting like other people off from it. So, like who am I to deserve to get paid, $20,000 a month net for being me? Okay, well, maybe we should rephrase that question. Like my brain is going to, okay, well, we live in a world of infinite possibilities. Like, if that's what you're called to do, or that's what you want to call in, like, call that in. Like, when you start doubting yourself and your worth, you're not living in a world of infinite possibilities, and you're holding yourself back from it, right? So you're just kind of changing that up. Like, okay, with that perspective, then yeah, like, I live in a world of infinite possibility. If I can manifest that money through a different means, why can't I do it here? Okay, so that feels okay. So, like, who am I to do that? Like, so my brain is like, okay, well, you're gonna do it through like intuitive coaching. Like, okay, that feels really like good and fun, and like I would enjoy doing that. So, like getting paid for being me is like getting paid, netting $20,000 a month for intuitive coaching. And then like my brain goes, but like, who would want to do that? Like, is there enough people that would connect with what you're saying? Well, there's billions and billions and billions of people, so maybe it's, not that many people, right? So like, okay, there's a lot of people in this world. I think we could find some people, right? But like, what you have to say worthy of people listening? Ooh, that one feels heavy. Okay. So like, is what I'm sharing helpful? Right? Like, am I of somebody who should be sharing? But like, I feel like I'm actually sharing that piece of the puzzle that like is missing. For me, it's missing, of like, where does the roommate go in your head about all these things? Like, the people who are like the books and the seminars and like all these people that like they're amazing, but they're like, what did that middle look like, right? And so, who am I to share, but like, who is sharing this middle part of like working through all this, getting to that place? So like, okay, I guess there's that middle piece that I, can share, so maybe I just work on being like as authentic as possible about like, where my mind goes and the blocks that I have to clear, you know? So, in order to call that kind of income in, I have to be somebody who lavishly shares my knowledge, but I also have to be like super raw and vulnerable. Oh, that feels kind of heavy. So I would need to be the type of person who's super vulnerable. I don't know if I like to be super vulnerable, in that like, kind of like your heart on your sleeve. But that's okay. Like, I'm okay with that. I think super vulnerable, like, for me then, is just like the judgment that comes back at you. And it wouldn't even necessarily be the judgment, because I could handle, like, I think the judgment is okay. It's like, it's almost like the people who kind of like pick at you, like, trying to be like silly and connect with you, but kind of like pick on you at that same time. Like, I don't 100% know what that energy is, but it's almost like that's the energy that I don't want to deal with. But that energy is them, it's not me, right? Like, maybe I'm just bumping into something, a belief, or I'm somehow rubbing them the wrong way, or they somehow want to connect to me, but at the same point, like, lower me at the same time. That's kind of what I feel like picking on somebody is. Like, you want to try to connect with that person, but at the same point, like, you want them to be beneath you, you know, but not like picking, like, playful fun, like goofy picking, right? Like, more of the serious, but kind of being silly kind of picking, almost like that ill-intentioned, but with a smile on their face, kind of like picking at you. So, you know, I don't want to be super raw and honest because, you know, people of that character would do something like that. Well, I mean, like, that's on them, right? Like, I mean, they can say that and then I could just not deal with it, or I could be the type of person who doesn't attract those type of conversations. Ooh, I think we found it. So, you know, who would I have to be, and so that those type of people just aren't even, like, A, around me, and then B, if they are around me, that I just don't give a shit. Like, that's a reflection of you. That is not a reflection of me. Like, you know, it's an interesting opinion. Appreciate you sharing. Right? Okay, so can remove the judgment and the picking and just the, you know, the needling from other people. Like, that's okay. We're just not going to attract that. We're just not going to vibrate at that level, and we're just not going to connect with it when it comes up. Like, that feels okay. So, to being like authentic, raw, and vulnerable, oh, still feels a little heavy. Okay. To be authentic, so in order to get paid $20,000 a month net, getting paid for being me, my beingness would need to be like raw, vulnerable. Yeah, I guess that feels okay. Right, so like I have to feel comfortable sharing these conversations that I'm having with my head and like what's coming up. So like that does feel okay. Okay. So what I'm calling in also probably is going to have to involve a lot of action. Right? So I have to be a doer. I have to be a person that has action, that does things. But like, how do I know what to do? Well, I'm also somebody who's intuitive. Right? So my intuitive next step. So I need to be the type of person that has intuitive guidance on their action steps, but takes massive action. Okay. I can handle massive action, right? So what comes up a lot for me is like I just don't know what to do next. So if I don't know what to do next, I'm like blocking myself, like what to do next. Right, but there's always like a lot of things that I could be doing while I'm putting together intuitive coaching, like quite a few projects that actually relate to that. So I need to be a doer. I need to put on the energy of I'm a doer and I'm a finisher, right? And then I also need to like figure out my next steps. But I've never been in this space before, and this might be like a good opportunity to then like ask for help or call in help before it's even needed. So like, what if the right people find me and offer me help? Or what would it take for me to ask for help? Or what would it take for me to pay for help? You know, like, so when I get stuck, you know, what would those steps look like? Right? But I also want like the energy of play and fun, like lightness. Like, this doesn't have to be hard. Like, it doesn't have to have like the drudgery. Oh, I'm getting $20,000 net a month, paid for being me, and it's just so horrible. I have to spend all my time doing things I don't want to do. Yeah, so no to that. So the energy of like fun and play and easy, like I'm not saying the whole thing will be easy, but like just calling in that energy. Um, I do find myself frustrated a lot. So like frustrated by, me not moving, not doing, but that comes down to like priority. So I'm not making this a priority. I have things that are urgent but not important pretty much all day long versus like this is important, and if it's important, then this is where I put my energy and my time. So if I get paid $20,000 net per month for being me, it feels like it needs to be important. And if it's important, that means I'm going to spend time on it. And I'm going to spend like the quality time. So this is the time in the morning, right? To me, that is like when I'm just like crazy, like action, 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 action. I just sit at my computer and I just get shit done. So like if that's my morning, but I'm not doing it on this, well, I think we found a little plug, a hole that needs to be plugged, right? So I need to make this important. So I need to be open and raw. I need to be fun and playful. I need to lavishly share my knowledge, but like what's going on in my head and like that self-talk, like what my roommate says. So we have our intention, attention, and removing of blocks. So, did I get all the blocks? So I am making $20,000 a month. I'm netting $20,000 per month as I'm getting paid for being me. For right now, that feels like intuitive coaching. With intuitive coaching, that's sessions and online courses, like things like that, right? So, I'm gonna need to put on the energy of lavishly sharing my knowledge, just being really like open and raw and vulnerable, and those feel good. I'm gonna need to be a doer. That feels good. I need to make sure that this is important. That feels good, right? So I live in a world of infinite possibilities, and I'm calling in a net of $20,000 per month as I get paid for being me. And I'm going to put on the energy of lavishly sharing. I'm going to be open and vulnerable. I'm going to be authentic and honest. And I'm going to be a doer. So I'm going to be doing the right things. Let's rephrase. I'm going to be intuitively figuring out the next step. I'm going to be an action taker, so massive action. And I'm going to be somebody who asks for help to get there. That feels really good and light. So it started pretty heavy. Started not really wanting to have that number. But again, I live in a world of infinite possibility. I just have the hang up on that number. A number. It's just a number, right? But these are all the beingnesses and the energies and the vibes that I have to take on in order to do that. So that's where I start putting my intention and attention. So my attention is going to be continuing to move towards lavishly sharing my knowledge, being vulnerable, being fun and playful, and being an intuitive action step taker. Those feel good. That feels super possible, right? I live in a world of infinite possibilities, and this feels really light, ever like spending some time with it and moving through it. So those are the energies and the vibes that I have to take on in order to continue to call those in. And so, like, what happens when I get frustrated? I'm sure I'm gonna get frustrated. They're frustrated, I've got some kind of block. So, but I've also got a separation from these feelings. So I can't be frustrated and creative and playful. Okay, so when I get frustrated, that means I'm in the wrong vibe and the wrong energy. I need to be playful, creative, intuitive, lavishly sharing my knowledge, open, raw, and vulnerable. So when I'm getting frustrated, I have to take a look at whatever block is coming up, like what's the story, and then shifting into those items, shifting into those vibes. It feels good. All right. So I think we should put a little blessing ball around that. We're going to give it some really good energy. Yeah. That feels good. Well, I hope you enjoyed this session of me working out how to get paid for being me, how to call in and net $20,000 per month as I get paid to be me. And that looks like putting on the energy and vibes of intuitive action and next steps, play and fun. It's going to involve some vulnerability and lavishly sharing my knowledge. So, but it feels good. And there's a million other sections that you can do this whole process on. So, intention, attention, remove the blocks. Do it again. Intention, attention, and remove the blocks. And what seems impossible will eventually just become inevitable. And it's all about the journey. So let's have some fun. Hope you enjoyed this. Peace.